Hi everyone, welcome back to The Search. I mean, this is a very different episode for me today, and also for Hishem, who's joining me as well. But we wanted to put together some ideas. Hishem is someone that I respect and have seen a lot of in the recruitment market for the Recruitment Mentors program. But I'm Elliot. I run a rec-to-rec business called Kayman Recruitment. I run a podcast called The Search, which is all to do with leadership. So I was keen to touch base with you, Hishem, and find out how you're getting on and how your market is, and share some ideas.
Yeah, amazing. Well, yeah, likewise. I guess obviously this is all. I'm also going to put this on the Recruitment Mentors podcast, and we thought that we'd join forces. We've been speaking to a lot of people, and we've both written down sort of our 5 most top common habits that we see in high performing leaders, successful people that we've interviewed, and we're going to go a bit of back and forth and see what we come up with. So
sounds good.
Why don't you go first, and then I'll follow.
Cool, let's do it. But so one of the main points I come up against with a lot of the leaders that I talk to, and there's been quite a few of recent, which has all been about virtual leadership and management. I've always been really keen to find out how people have adapted to this new reality that we are working in. I think the most common response that I'm getting from the virtual side of it is they have built more relationships with their teams and their consultants more than ever more recently, and got to know them a little bit more on a personal level.
I think the conversation that I've had, it's either gone that way or it's gone the complete opposite.
Really? In what way?
It's either you've got close with your team, you've had to really work hard on sort of finding out what's worked for them, and trying to be the best leader you can be. But then on the flip side, for the leaders that may have found it tough or may have found it hard to adapt, have then pushed to people, making feel like they are being micromanaged from afar, right? Yeah. If they're having too many check-in calls or feeling like they're being checked up on. And obviously the whole thing that came up at some point around, I mean, I've heard stories where people will sign in on a Zoom call at 8:30, and then they have to stay on that Zoom call for a long period of time so people can actually see that they're at their desk, right? So I guess all I want to say was it's either gone that way or it's gone the other way.
Really?
But no doubt it's a challenge.
Yeah, I feel like they're all remaining positive when I speak to them, and they're not telling me the other side of it, which I can understand, when we've kind of established ourselves, that we're spending a lot of time doing that, and it does take up a lot. When you're in office, do you sit and have that many conversations and I suppose kill that much time through the day?
I think the other part to it is, which I find interesting, is obviously, look, you're in the rec-to-rec business, so like we've all been in a recruitment office, and they've got the bell ringing for deals, they've got the gong banging going on or whatever. But sort of an interesting conversation that's come up in the community recently is like how are people actually celebrating those wins remotely, because that's quite difficult.
That's a really
right?
good one.
So there's a few things, but I think that's really hard to create. I think like a lot of people say they've got WhatsApp groups and it's celebrating small wins and these things, but that sort of, as you know, right, that camaraderie, and there's nothing better than walking up to the feed board and putting a brand spanking new deal on there.
Yeah, in front of everybody as well.
Yeah, in front of everyone, exactly, in front of your peers. Like so I think definitely people are excited to be able to get more of those feelings back, because I think although people can jump on a Zoom call and do a bit of a deal dance and get music on and maybe do things like that, I'm not quite sure it's sort of the same essence.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same feeling. But I think like what we've started to do at Kayman even is we've got a WhatsApp group, and anytime someone does a deal, you've got to put a bell in the group, and it has to be something different, a different GIF, a different video, but it has to go in the group to kind of share the success, if you like, and the small wins.
But so it seems like that's super important.
Yeah, definitely.
So the first point that I put down is self-awareness. Yeah. So I just think this is so important, and something that I always see in sort of high performing recruiters. So for me, what comes up for me in this is 2 parts. So one, the sort of real willingness to take responsibility at looking at yourself and where you can improve, and just that willingness to look at yourself to find out where you need to improve, basically. But the other part to it is, which is also under this sort of heading is being reflective. I think the best recruiters always make time in the space to go, how could I have done that better?
Yeah.
Or why has this deal fallen through? And actually make the time to go through that rather than pointing the finger, right? And they take full responsibility, and they're willing to look in the mirror and go, right, how can I improve and get better?
Yeah.
So I think for me, the first one that I put on there is just this willingness, this constant ongoing willingness to look at themselves on how they can improve, how can
Definitely.
they what are the areas that they need to improve, and that willingness to have that self-awareness, which is difficult at times, is something that I put at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for a lot of people in recruitment and a lot of recruiters that we speak to sit and complain about problems and things that's not going right and issues, and trust me that we're the first people they end up calling at that point. But at the end of the day, like, there's always a case of, there's always a solution behind every problem that they can create or I suppose implement. And that's something that a lot of people in recruitment need to be aware of, that there's a solution for everything. And that's something that we see a lot of, in this game. But if they've got the right people around them, then you've got all those people as well to help them identify and be aware of what that could be.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was definitely the first point for me.
Yeah. Brilliant. Fine. So I've got one here, which is all about the health and wellness, and something that we've all been looking at a lot recently and talking about more so than ever for the last year. It's always a big subject of mine that means a lot. But a lot of people at the moment are trying to better themselves, not just from a working perspective, but from a health and well-being aspect, and putting themselves in a lot of the let's just say the charity runs have been going through, they've been going through, just putting themselves through their paces and giving themselves more challenges in life, that it's going to help them mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, we've been on a real journey right over the last year. And I think if you haven't made the space and time to, and this is something I always battle with, because I'm sort of someone that can quite easily just put all my eggs into the work basket.
Yeah.
But I think, people have really tried to learn and find out, what else they need to be doing in their life. Call it balance, call it whatever you need. But if you're someone that, I don't know, needs to get out and walk a lot, get out and do running, like just, you need to, I mean, if you don't have health, you don't have anything, right? So I think that's been definitely really important. And I think what you just said there around, I know you said the charity piece, but just on that really quickly, maybe a separate point, but definitely seeing a lot of businesses run fantastic charity campaigns, which I think is awesome. Yeah,
there's more so I've seen of those than ever before. But even just little things like reading a book, just step away. I had a few conversations with some recruiters, and I said to them, look, if your lunch break's your lunch break, whether you're at home or not, go out, as you said, go for a walk. Go and watch TV for 10 minutes, just go and talk to someone, go and do something different that's not work-based, so that you can actually look after yourself.
Yeah, you're right. I think, and again, I find it's really hard.
Yeah.
I'm quite lucky. The office that I'm in, it's a 30-minute walk from the flat, so I've got that separation.
Yeah.
But when I had 3 months working from a breakfast bar table at my girlfriend's house, and that was really difficult. And I think, it can be all consuming, right? Yeah. And I think that the challenging part about it is that when you're working in the other spaces that you may watch telly and these types of things, is that when you then end up having that time, guilt might start trickling in, right? Because you're like, I could be doing this work, or I should be doing this, blah, blah, blah. So it's hard.
I think one last little sort of point to make on this, and something I've seen a lot, and I thought I'd bring it up on this, is that if you step away from your computer and, you've got your boss on your case who's looking at, your, how long you've been on, when you last signed into the system, and when you've been on, it was like, I think at that point, if you need to step away, not to worry so much about that. And a lot of recruiters do struggle with that worry and that paranoia of, but I'm not doing any work. Like, you need to be honest with your business at that point, and I suppose give yourself that break, or just even if you send a message saying I'm just stepping away for 20 minutes, that's better than not, and I suppose make you feel a bit better about it.
Yeah, nice. So the next point that I had was a constant appetite to learn.
Yeah.
I think for me, the best recruiters that I've interviewed have just ongoingly had the mindset they can always be learning. Yeah, they're people that may have been in the sort of industry for 10, 15, 20 years, but still are willing to learn from people that are very early on in their recruitment career. Yeah. So I think there's just this common attitude, which is just to never stop learning and always being open to it, rather than being someone that we've always done it this way and we know it works this way. Rather listen and be open to potential new ideas, new ways of doing things. And I think people that really take their own development seriously are high performers, are recruiters at the top of their game. Like, they're not relying on their company going, "Oh, Elliot, we've got this new trainer in for you." Like, they're the high performers and top billers are people that are out there looking for the best trainers, out there looking for the best books to read. They're out there looking for the courses to enroll themselves in, or at least they're trying to find that out, and then they can then bring that to people inside the business that they work for.
Definitely.
But for me, there's just a mindset of always wanting to learn and develop, and sort of it's an ongoing thing. Like, they don't think that I've completed recruitment. Right.
No, 100%. I spoke to someone not long ago, and they moved away from recruitment in their business, but stayed within a recruitment company, and they developed themselves to more operational role, so they can develop and learn, etc. But the one thing that stood out for them is always taking accountability for anything that they want to do, and that really has stuck with me. That if you want to progress and you want to learn and you want to do more and have more, you've got to take accountability and make that happen for yourself. It's never just going to sometimes just come to you, and sometimes half of us aren't even aware that that's what the person next to us really wants, because they never say anything.
You bring up a good point, right? Obviously you spend a lot more time speaking to recruiters and what they want out of their careers and things like this, right? But the real common driver is going to be career progression, right? And development and ongoing development. So I think you're completely right. The recruiters that I've interviewed that have gone from that whole journey from trainee all the way up to director, let people know in their business that that's what they wanted.
100%.
And I think sometimes people miss that trick, that they don't. If I work for you and I pull you aside and go, "Hey, Leo, look, so this is where I am today, but this is where I want to be," then you know that, right? And the people that get the opportunities, or what's going to give you the best chance to get the promotion over the person next to you, is by letting people know that that's what you're going for. And like you said, rather than being someone that goes, "Oh, I've billed this month, so I thought I'd get this." Well, no. Yeah. Did your company know that that's what you wanted, or what? So you're completely right. That also translates into progressing your career.
It's the first thing we ask. If someone says they're unhappy, the first thing I say to them is, "Well, have you spoken to your boss about it? Have you spoken to your team leader? Have you told them? Have you made them aware of how you feel and where you're at and what you actually really want?" Don't just try and leave a business, in my opinion, just so that you can go and get progression elsewhere, when you haven't even made the effort in your current place, who might give it to you. They just don't know that you really want it. So don't be afraid to speak up.
Absolutely. Nice.
So I've got on mine the next one, which is progression, but we've just touched on that, so we've covered that off in terms of how much we hear of people wanting to progress. But if that's what you want, again, take accountability. And
what is it that typically people want, though, out of interest?
They want to be, I suppose, they always just want more. Everyone in recruitment always wants more, whether it's more money, more deals, more candidates, more clients, or, they always want to step up to and go forward. But I think a lot of people in recruitment it's just haven't got the, I just suppose they just don't want to say that, and they don't want to speak up and explain that, even if they feel like because they haven't built enough, they can't get what they want still. I feel like that's a lot of the stuff that we come across, and they might have better attributes in other areas of the business that can help them perform and use their talent. But a lot of them just afraid is the word I was looking for.
Really?
Yeah.
I think this came up in the community recently. It'd be good if you're talking about progression, just out of interest, to get your thoughts on this, because I'm sure you've heard stories like this. But obviously the typical route that comes under progression for recruiters is going into management, right? So the question is, if I'm someone listening to this that does want to progress, but for me progression isn't going into management, that I know that isn't something that I want, like how can I progress as a biller?
So I'll give you an example. There's a lady called Jess Hodson who's at Investigo, and someone that I had spoken to on a podcast, and she told me that she never wanted to manage. It wasn't really a thing for her. She was just, in a funny way, just selfish. She just wanted to do her own thing, and she didn't feel like that was the best thing. However, there's some people in her business that might have been looked at in a more respectful way because they wanted to manage. But she just wanted the principal route, and all she did was speak to the bosses of the business and say, look, I want to be a principal. I don't want to manage. I just want to build, and I want to progress that route and that way. And if you're working for the right company, they will work around that and work towards that with you. So I guess at that point, it goes back to speaking up and speaking to the right people and expressing how you see it going and see fit. And if they see the value in you and they've got the respect that you hope that they would have for you, they'll work with you on that.
I guess I think the interesting conversation is like, what does that actual progression look like? Do you know what I mean? Because I think that it's quite unique, isn't it? Because it's like, I can give you a billings target and you hit that and then you exceed this. I don't know, you might get you as a senior principal, but then what does that mean and what extra, do you know what I mean? So I think that's the interesting thing.
You can still be a director and have shares and equity in a business just from a principal route. You know, you've made just as much money and much effort as anybody else might have done. So you can still progress to the top of the game as anyone else would. But then at that point, rather than necessarily billing, you could look at the routes of how can I account develop? How can I use all the skills that I've had as an individual contributor and then work towards that as a director? And there's so many, but again, if you're not sure and there's a kind of concern around that, the boss of the business will work that out with you and come up with a plan that gets all your skill set out of you to work, to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely, like that.
Yeah,
cool. So the next point that I had was ethical, and what I mean by this is, I don't know if you've noticed this, Elliot, but for me, like there's definitely a lot of people starting their own recruitment business.
Yeah,
I know that's a lot of people start up their own recruitment business per year, but it seems like COVID could potentially have definitely accelerated that.
Yeah,
and from the businesses that I see start their own business, the people behind it just really feels like they're just standing for that bit more. It seems like. And I know everyone says that they're different, right, at the beginning, and they want to be different, right? However, I don't know. I'm seeing companies start and sort of openly committing and pledging that they're going to donate X percentage of all of their profits to a charity that's close to their home, or it might be that they're a company that is really trying to move the needle on diversity and inclusion, or it even might be around the sort of mental health in the workplace. But when I say ethical, they're the sort of things that come up for me. I think for me, from my lens, what is definitely highlighted over the last year, if you're someone that was transactional and sort of only cared about the pound sign, then I don't know how much success you've had over the last year. I don't know. I feel like for the recruiters that are genuinely motivated by doing the right thing and not pushing people into things just to benefit them, but actually pay it forward to their market, helped when they needed it, are the people that are really going to continue to have success in the recruitment industry. And for me, like the top performers that I've spoken to and interviewed on the podcast I know we use that word selfish. Yes, you do have to be an element of selfish to get to the top, for sure. But that I think a lot of people think that comes with like being cutthroat and all these things. Like from what I'm seeing, like the best recruiters aren't that.
No,
they may have been
at
some stage. They may have been. However, we're talking about having a sustainable career in recruitment. Those people can like strive to do the right thing. That's what comes up for me, and that's why I put that, because I think it isn't something that you typically associate with a high billing recruiter, but it's definitely something that I see in the high performing recruiters that I interview.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the people that I've spoken to, and someone that actually gives me advice is, always strive to sometimes, to try and be different and stand out as much as you can in what you're doing and how you're doing it. And if you're just going to go and this is just my opinion, if you're going to go and just set up another agency and do it the same way that you've done before in terms of how your old firm have done it, you're not, what difference are you going to make for that company to want to work with you against, another company? And I feel like if you stand for something different and you stand for something that you really truly believe in, that's that's the new, fresh, modern approach that I suppose is going to build our industry. And I suppose for a lot of clients of theirs, going to make them stand out. Oh, that client, do you remember speaking with Bill that from that recruitment company that are donating 5% of their fee to charity? Or, this company are all about, diversity and inclusion. They've got a really good, powerful meaning to their firm. Let's work with them. Just something that's going to stick.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the key part to highlight there is that I think it's the intention that really matters. But I think from the people that I see in the conversations that I have, I think that's what's amazing to see, is that the intention is authentic and it's true. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different things, and a lot of the recruiters that I've spoken to over the last 8 years now, a lot of them have set up their own businesses and have done things so differently that it's worked out extremely well. But I've also, don't forget, like you've said before, I've also seen a lot of the high performers that have worked for some firms that don't buy into their firms and their businesses, that have left to set up their own ones, have just, just done as well as anyone else would have done, and have been very successful. So I think there's still definitely two ways to look at it, but either stand out and have something different to offer, or be that high performing biller, and you can still just be as successful.
Yeah, for sure.
So my one's actually a good subject for you. It's all about mentors, and something I think is a important part to, and it's an important question I ask anyone that's on the podcast that's a successful recruiter and leader, is who helped you, who taught you, where did you get your insights and information from? And I think that without those people and that without that resource behind them, would they be as successful as they are? I don't think some of them would have been, and I think that they've been fortunate to have that ability and that behind them, but there's not enough of it, which is kind of where it's a good subject for you to take over, and about what you do and what you're offering to recruiters.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think that's such a great question to ask. And I think sometimes people have in their head that sort of, a mentor is like this sort of big thing, right? But anyone could have been a mentor to you, right? Could have been. So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that anyone can be a mentor to you, right? So I think that's the first thing. It isn't this sort of special relationship or arrangement that you have with someone. It could be someone that, is like a year down the line that gave you some really sound advice. It could be your first boss at your first agency that you still stay in touch with. But I think you're right. Obviously, as a lot of recruitment early on, and you're learning, a lot of it is on the job, and there's a lot of firsts. Yeah. So I think having access to people that have already experienced those firsts is huge. And I think sort of, I guess with Recruitment Mentors, that was part of it, because there, as you'll know, there's a lot of small grown recruitment businesses that sit under sort of sub 20 staff. Yeah. And sometimes it can be limited who you can access and learn from. Yeah. From the people just around you, or the time that they can give you, or the sort of resources that your business has. So I think that's a big part as to why we're trying to give that sort of on-demand, or at least offer a place for recruiters that want it, to have access to some people that have trodden the path that they want to get onto, that can act as mentors from afar and on demand. Yeah, looking at, I follow what you guys do, and looking at a lot of subjects that you talk about is so relevant. And when businesses have said to me, which they still do, now, can you recommend any good sales trainers and people that can come in and help us with our internal talent, L&D, etc. I've always had no problems in recommending certain individuals, but now you've got this kind of resource. I don't think it's priceless, the information that you can get from recruiters who have been there, done it, have experienced it, can give the right advice, from a fresh and modern approach, is second to none. And I think that a lot of recruiters could do with that. And if they don't get it internally, then there's so many people out there that you guys have got in your business that can help them, which is something that I think, as I said before, and I'll repeat, is priceless. I appreciate that. I think the point to underline, which sort of really resonates with people, is just actually learning from people that are sort of doing it today and have been successful in the current market, right? I think that's the point that people are really after. Yeah, 100%. So next point that I have then is, and you hear this a lot, right? And I know that you sort of put this down as well. So I'll sort of just share what comes up for me, and then feel free to add anything. So yeah, purpose driven, right? So I guess why is this important? So I think, look, recruitment can be a really sort of thankless job at times, right? So I think why this is important, and why a lot of sort of high performers have this, or have a purpose, or understand why they're doing what they're doing, is because when the chips are down and it's really tough, you've got to have something. You've got to have clarity on why you're doing what you're doing, and why it's important to you. Because if you don't, then it's going to be a struggle. It really is. So the sort of purpose driven for me is it can, and again, like, I don't think it needs to be like this official thing where every single minute of the day you're thinking about your purpose, right? But you do need to think about it.
Of course. However,
it can change. It can most certainly change. The purpose and why you do what you do might be different early on in your recruitment career to when it is 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the line.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the important thing here is that you're asking the important questions, which is, why are you doing what you're doing, and having the willingness to go deeper than that, and keep asking yourself why. Okay, so why is that important to me? Why do I want to build this much? Like, why do I get a lot from helping people? Why do I want to work with it? Like, why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because when, as I said, things get tough, you've got something hopefully that gets you excited. Yeah. That's something that you've got a real anchor point as to, look, I've just been rejected 5, 10, 15 times in a row. That's okay, because I know what the bigger picture is, and I know why I'm here and what I'm doing. Yeah. So that's what comes up for me on the purpose piece.
There's loads of points on the whole purpose thing that, could be brought up, but it does boil down to one thing at the end of it. And as a recruiter, when you've done that deal and it's taken you 3 months and it's a hard search and you've really struggled with it, and you sit there and you get it over the line and you ring that bell and you turn around and say, which most cases people do, this is why I do this job. This is why I love this job. It all comes down to that. But around that, and when you haven't got to that point, you've got every other struggle out there to, I suppose, to make you think otherwise, which is, the challenges in itself. But every challenge that you face in recruitment is a challenge that you can use and take away with you for, I suppose, in life, is what I see a lot. And I think that if most, with dealing with a candidate and an objective handling, you could use that when you go to buy a car. When you go and negotiate on a house, you're learning so much. I would just say massively, like, don't try and be narrow-minded about your purpose of or why have I done that? What's the point? Look at the bigger picture is what I'm trying to get at. Look at the bigger picture. Don't be narrow-minded about a purpose of it's just recruitment. There's so many more skills and attributes you can learn and take away from it.
Yeah. And I think why this is important as well. I spoke a lot around when it's tough and you're facing challenges, but actually from a lot of recruiters that have done really well financially, this is also important for the recruiters that are making a lot of money, right? So I always remember it that it wasn't loads of money, right? But when I got my biggest paycheck from recruitment, I was like probably building it up, had my best ever month. Money hit my account and didn't feel anything. Yeah. So I think this is also important to think about, because when you do hit that mega month that you've been dreaming about, don't be surprised if it only lasts for a couple of hours. Like you said, ring that bell, sit back to your seat, and it's like, right, what's next? Yeah. That's what it should be. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is also important to sort of challenge and get people to think about it. If you're at the top of your game and you're making a lot of money and you're constantly hitting things, there will be a point where you may have everything that you want, right? Yeah. So this is really important for those people that are high performers, that are top of their game, to also think about why you're doing what you're doing. Because trust me, I've spoken to so many highly successful recruiters who you may think, well, they've done really well, they've got everything that they wanted, how can they not be motivated? Well, actually, it's because they've got everything that they wanted. So they'd typically be motivated by getting this, that, and all these types of things, because that's what they wanted, and they've got it all. So now what? So I think that's another really important point to think about.
Yeah, definitely. And I can go a bit deeper and just sort of to finalize what I've said, what you're saying is, you go home, look at what you've got around you, what you've paid for and what you've achieved, and that's your purpose. Look at, the position that you're in, the money that you earn, and that's your purpose. Those big billers that are earning six figures or having some monster months because their contract book so high, they wouldn't have the lifestyle they have if they've got everything they want without it being in that position. And if you took that all away from them, I think 9 times out of 10, they'll kind of question what their purpose is, and how they're even going to maintain that purpose, because without that, I suppose, success that they've had, it wouldn't mean anything to them.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's my points. I mean, I've covered all mine off. Is there any more of yours?
Yeah. So I've got one more. So last one that I've got is, and it may seem a bit boring, but it's just something that I see time and time again in great recruiters.
Yep.
And the great recruiters take organization seriously. So I just see this time and time again. They're like, the best recruiters are non-negotiable with their day plans, with protecting their time, with just like working out what is the formula that works for them. Right? And everyone has to work out what works for them. But for me, the best recruiters can tell you, if I ask you, what does a typical day look like for you? And yes, things can change, and you might get a call that might sort of throw a spanner in the works. But 9 times out of 10, a great recruiter will go, this is typically what a day looks like. 8 to 8:30, I'll do this. 9 till 10, I'll do this. Like, that's precise. And the best recruiters know what activities they need to prioritize, and know, as I said, what the formula is that can give them the best possible chance of achieving the outcomes that they need and they want. So for me, I just wanted to, the sort of final point I wanted to highlight is that the best recruiters take organization seriously. And you may put that in the sort of admin boring camp, but actually the recruiters that take the time to plan, to strategize, to map out that client, and then go and approach that client, whatever it may be, are the recruiters that, trust me, are likely going to be at the top of the leaderboard.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you. Like, there's a recruiter that I've once spoken to, and they've got £1 million desk. To maintain and build to £1 million desk takes a hell of a lot. It's not easy. And when I said to them, like, how do you get to that point? What have you done? They are so process and routine driven that they've found that formula that you mentioned that works for them. And they have got their CRM to a T. They've done their admin. They've got this CRM to a point where it's just a normal thing for them. They've got their diary management, wrapped up, that they know exactly when they're doing what, where, and why. And as soon as a job comes in, they know exactly where to go and how to find that candidate that's already on their network somewhere that they've built. And they've just mapped it out so well that it's it's like a machine, that makes them bill £1 million a year. And I think you're right, Hishem. Like, if you haven't got that kind of, I suppose, that management and routine in your day to day, it's going to be quite tough, and it's really even more challenging to get to that point of higher success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you say that like it's a machine, it's, for me, when you say that, what you're basically saying is that they don't spend any time on thinking what they need to do. Like, they know what they need to do. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's the thing, is like, if you turn up every day to work and you already know, you have a clear idea of what you need to do for today to be a good day. You're in such a strong position. Definitely. Like, you're in such a strong position. And then, and I just think that's so important. And sometimes can be sort of underlooked as like admin and these types of things. And then I think in today's day and age, part of organization is not being distracted.
That's that is we all have that problem, right? And we all have so much that we do back to back, and we're all busy with getting on with our day, that something is there that's always going to distract us. And that's fine, but if you can figure out a way to get back to what you're doing in between, and not be afraid to move things around and say no, like, you'll be all right. I feel that's a lot of people's issues, is that they kind of are scared to say no. And, I feel like if you stick to what you are doing and you can say no to someone and come back to it, it'll be a lot better for you. But that's just my view on what I see.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
nice. That was it. The top 5.
That's
top
it.
5 common habits.
This is what we see nearly every day in recruitment. But we see a lot more being in Rec, and there's a lot of subjects and things that go on, and we hear a lot about. But look, recruitment's just like any other industry at the end of the day. It's always got its challenges it faces, but it's always got its main key subject areas that you and I in particular will see a hell of a lot more of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, really enjoyed this. Excited to share this with the people that listen to the Recruitment Mentors podcast. And yeah, let's definitely do some more things together in the future.
Sounds good. Look forward to it, Hishem. And likewise, been great speaking to you and catching up.
Likewise.
Cool. You take care.